Welcome to Psalm 74. Forget not your servants, O Lord, is the title, which I put together maybe 15 years ago, and going through it more in depth, some of these I would change. This one here, actually the last one I think it was about the old folks. I would put it some type of a, forget not your elders or your senior citizens. But here, forget not your servants. Yeah, there's so many themes to these psalms. Very difficult putting titles to them. The theme in this psalm has not a whole lot to do about not forgetting your servants. But as we go through, you'll see what I'm talking about. But it begins in the title that was put years ago, a psalm of contemplation to Asaph. Now, Asaph was close to David time-wise, but I don't see where this psalm is even close to that. I believe that it could be another, as in other psalms, to the sons of Asaph. The titles here could be just as similar to the ones I put, that may be somewhat, I don't know what the one word correct, but applicable to the psalm, then maybe not. But here, whatever this has to do with Asaph, and if it was Asaph, it just doesn't fit. It would have been a lot later, so it could have been attributed to the sons of Asaph. Oh God, why did you thrust us away unto the end? Well, God hasn't thrust Israel or anybody away yet, because if this was at the time of David, they were just growing and becoming stronger and stronger. But here, this man is saying, why did you thrust us away unto the end? And it sounds like times were tough. And we don't, of course, want God to thrust us away unto the end. We want him to be with us. And here, apparently, these people whoever writing this, thought this was the end, possibly. Why is your rage provoked to anger against the sheep of your pasture? And I don't see that at that time, David, and we'll show later why I think it's for a later time. So why is your rage provoked against the sheep of your pasture? Now I would think he was talking about the Jews here, and the rage of God did come against them later as their kings caused the people to walk away from Kyrios, the Lord. And then it begins in 2, remember your synagogues, a synagogue, your congregation, which you acquired from the beginning. You ransomed the rod of your inheritance, this Mount Zion where you encamped in it. I think what he's talking about here, the earliest ransoming I see in the Bible is in Egypt, where he ransomed the children of Israel away from the control of the Egyptians. And then this Mount Zion, where you encamped in it. So he took them to Mount Zion in Jerusalem. Now, Zion and Mount Zion, the last chapter I mentioned Zion. I was questioning whether that's always Jerusalem. But Mount Zion, that's different than just plain Zion. Now, whether that's significant or not, I suppose would be open to study. Lift up your hands against their pride unto completion. Now, who are we talking about here? Their pride unto completion. Now, as we go through here, it looks like it could be either the Jews themselves or some type of a conqueror that came against Israel. And down in 18, I believe it kind of shows that this was more for the Jews themselves doing these things. For as much as the enemy did wickedly in your holy place. And the ones detesting you boasted in the midst of your holiday. I just don't see where this would be a conqueror of the Babylonians. Sounds more like a defection of the Jews away from the things of Yahweh, or Jehovah, Kyrios, get it right sooner or later, and detesting him and the holidays and so forth. We see that King Ahaz was one of the first major defectors, and that was in the year 730, where he, it says in 2 Chronicles 28:24, and Ahaz removed the items of the house of the Lord and cut them in pieces, and locked the doors of the house of the Lord, and made for himself altars in every corner in Jerusalem. And he was in 730, and the temple was built in around 930. So it's 200 years later, where I think this was probably the sons of Asaph, and this was written. And then it continues, and they knew not, as in the issue above, the things of the Lord, as they cut down in the forest of woods with axes, and they broke down its doors together with a hewing axe and chisel. And they set your sanctuary on fire to the ground. Now there it could be where it would be the conquerors that came, because Nebuchadnezzar, they did burn the sanctuary, where that didn't happen in Ahaz's time, but whichever one. And they profaned the tent of your name. The tabernacle was way earlier, but tent and tabernacle and temple may be synonymous. Their kin together said in their heart, come, and we should cause to cease all the holidays of God from the land. Now, I don't know if the Babylonians would even care about all of that. They were just conquering for money and so forth. Sounds there again more like the Jews themselves. We did not see our signs. There is not yet a prophet. So that sounds like the Jews again, because again, the Babylonians wouldn't say something about themselves. And one of us knows not any longer. For how long, O God, shall the enemy berate? He provokes the opposition of your name to the end. Why did you turn away your hand, even your right hand, from the midst of your bosom to the end? From out of the midst of your bosom. Well, I would think he would have put it in the bosom. Taking his right hand is what he would swat people with, military and so forth. Why did you turn it away? Maybe your hand from your bosom to the end. I'm not sure exactly in the wording here, but I would think this is definitely talking about God not doing something about stopping either these invaders or the Jews that were defecting. But God, our King, is before the eon. He worked a deliverance in the midst of the earth. And so here, we're the midst of the earth. Now the Jews at that time, this could be a portent of Jesus, because Jesus mentions that he is mentioned throughout the Psalms. And he is the soter, this deliverer. You held the sea in check by your power, and he did, created everything, and you broke the heads of dragons upon the water. Now here we get to the theme that I see is important, and I'm going to go over a little bit, as drakon. Here it's the plural, the dragons, the heads of dragons. Now that's very interesting and something we want to remember, the heads of dragons. But then it goes into you fractured the heads of the dragon, singular, not dragons, plural. You gave him for food to the Ethiopian peoples. Now, what is it talking about, the dragon? Dragons that we see today, we think about Puff, the magic dragon. Peter, Paul, and Mary sang that song maybe 40 or 50 years ago. And Puff the magic dragon lived by the sea, frolicked in the land of Hanali. And then he was a nice dragon. Well, dragons are not nice in the Bible. They're not puff. And then we have different dragons, Welsh dragon. Different people fought these dragons in England, and they had a lot of dragons. The King Arthur, son of the dragon, Pendragon, Arturus Pendragon. And so the dragons have been around in Western folklore and so forth, but they're not folklore in the Bible. It's a real, some type of a being. We see in Exodus 7 the first mention of the Drakon. And I translated where God told Moses to throw his rod to the ground, and it turned into, and I have serpent, because the King James probably had serpent, and I just thought, well, it's a long rod. Why would it be anything but a serpent? But it doesn't use the word serpent. Ophis is a serpent. In other places, it has them separate. So a dragon, a drakon, was what it was called in the Greek. And 2 or 3 places it talks about in Exodus 7, then the throwing down the rod, and it became a drakon, whatever a dragon was, some type of a crocodile. Sometimes it's kind of related to that because it's talking about Egypt. And then we have in Deuteronomy 32:33 and Job 20:16, the rage of dragons, but then it has, I believe it was in Deuteronomy, then Job 20:16, it mentions serpents, ophis, separate, not the same thing. But we'll see here at the end where, to give you a theme that you can grasp a hold of as we go through these different places of the dragon. It says in the last place, and I'm jumping ahead to the end, and it's Revelation 22. And it says, and he sees the dragon, Drakon, the ancient serpent, who is the devil and Satan, the one misleading the entire inhabitable world, and bound him 1,000 years. So dragon, ancient serpent, devil, Satan are all synonymous. Now, in Nehemiah 2:13, it mentions a spring of the dragon, which was in Jerusalem. So it was a spring that came out and probably made a pool. Now, why the dragon? I'm not sure. And then in Obadiah 4:10, it talks about the prancing of dragons. So a serpent wouldn't prance, doesn't have legs, but yet this drakon did have legs. And then in Job 26:13, it talks about the dragon defector. So now we're getting closer into what we see in Revelation, this ancient serpent, the devil and Satan. The dragon defector is mentioned in Job 26:13. You can look it up. Job 38:39, it talks about the souls of dragons. And then 41:9 of Job, it talks about the nose of the dragon. Now, it could be talking about crocodiles because it relates it to Egypt. And then as we go through Psalms, there's more places that do mention the drakon. But then in Isaiah 7:1, it has an interesting mention of the dragon. It says, in that day, God will bring on the holy and the great and the strong sword against the drakon, the fleeing serpent, against the drakon, the crooked serpent, and he will do away with the drakon, the one in the sea. So this, I believe, is a portent of the future that hasn't happened yet, of this drakon, who God will take care of, who is fleeing. And then in Isaiah 51:9, it relates the drakon being torn up by Jerusalem. In Isaiah 51:9, awaken, awaken, O Jerusalem, and then being torn up by a drakon. Now, it could be just a powerful being that's a figure of speech for a powerful being, a dracon. It's also mentioned against Jerusalem in Jeremiah 9:11 and 14:6 and 50, verse 8, 51, verse 34, 51, verse 37, and Lamentation 4:3. Then it talks about Pharaoh being the great dragon in Ezekiel 9:3 and 32:2. And so it relates it somewhat to a crocodile in a way. And then in Micah 1:8, it talks about a generic dragon. And then in Revelation 12:3-13 has a lot. And right here, the signs in heaven. And a great sign appeared in the heaven, a woman wearing the sun and the moon underneath her feet, and upon her head a crown of 12 stars. And having one in the womb, she cried out, travailing, could be referring here to the tribes, or 12 something else, and being tormented to give birth. And appeared another sign in the heaven, and behold, a great fiery dracon, having 7 heads. Now remember back in where we're at here in Psalms, it talks about the dragon having the heads, the singular dragon, and here we see him. What was portended in Psalms, and he had 10 horns, and upon his heads were 7 diadems, and his tail drags a third of the stars of the heaven, and did cast them to the earth. And the dracon stands before the woman about to give birth, that whenever she should give birth, he should devour her male child, Jesus, and she bore a male son, who is about to tend all the nations with a rod of iron, which Jesus will, and her child was snatched away to God and to his throne, which Jesus was. And the woman fled into the wilderness, where could be the Jews, where she has a place being prepared by God, that there she should be nourished 1,260 days. Well, if this was years, those were long gone from when Israel ceased to exist. So I'm not exactly sure. People have tried to figure these things out and come up with all kinds of possibilities. But I'm not doing a study of Revelation. I'm doing a study of a Psalm right here. And there was war in heaven, Michael and his angels to wage war with the dracon. And the dracon waged war with his angels, and he prevailed not. That is a dragon, so it was a he. And nor was a place found for him, the masculine, any longer in the heaven. And the great dragon, now see the great dragon, the only other great dragon it mentions was the one of the Pharaoh in Egypt. And the great dragon was cast out, the ancient serpent being called the devil and Satan. And it reassures us with that in the 20th chapter. So again, this dragon is always tied into the ancient serpent, the devil and Satan, the one misleading the entire inhabitable world, and was cast into earth, and his angels were cast with him. Has this happened yet or not? I'm not sure. And I heard a great voice in the heavens saying, now is come the deliverance and the power and the kingdom of our God and the authority of his Christ. Well, that hasn't happened yet. For the accuser of our brothers was cast down, the one accusing them before our God day and night. And they overcame him through the blood of the Lamb and through the word of their testimony, and they loved not their life until death. Now it changes a little. Because of this, be glad, O heavens, and O ones encamping in them. Woe to the earth and to the sea. Now here is sea, for the devil is come to you. So now the sea is where this mentions in Psalms, I believe, with the dragon, having great rage, knowing that he has a short time. And when the dragon, I didn't highlight that one, should be highlighted, saw that he was cast into the earth, he pursued the woman who gave birth to the male. Now, I believe that if that was the future where the man of sin comes and he pursues the Jews, the woman with the 12 diadems, I believe, and were given to the woman 2 wings of a great eagle, that she should fly into the wilderness and to her place, where she should be nourished there a time and times and half a time from the face of the serpent. So a lot of people believe that this is during the tribulation period of time. And the serpent, see, shot. Now here it's called the serpent, Ophis. So now whether that serpent in Deuteronomy, where Moses threw down the rod and turned into something that had feet, or was it a serpent? Interesting to figure that out. And the serpent shot from out of his mouth water as a river after the woman, that she should be made river-born. And the earth helped the woman, and the earth opened her mouth and swallowed down the river which the dragon shot from out of his mouth. And the dracon was provoked to anger against the woman and went forth to make war with the rest of her seed. Israel, when the dragon comes against Israel, and maybe they'll accept him at the beginning, but then all of a sudden, whoa. Of the ones giving heed to the commandments of God and having the testimony of Jesus. So are there going to be people that have the testimony of Jesus? The 144,000 Jews, the 12 tribes? It could be talking about them. Because I believe that the believers of Christ will be gathered together before that, because it talks about that in 2 Thessalonians, where the man of sin comes, goes into the temple and proclaims himself God. I would think that man of sin would be the devil. And then after that, it says that the chosen will be gathered together. And then it continues, and I stood upon the sand of the sea, and I saw, and this would have been John, and I saw from out of the sea a wild beast ascending, having 10 horns and 7 heads, and upon his horns 10 diadems, and upon his heads a name of blasphemy. And the wild beast which I saw was likened to a leopard, and his feet as a bear, and his mouth as a mouth of a lion. And the dragon gave to him his power. So the dragon is separate from this being here. And his gave to him his power and his throne. Now remember, the man of sin goes into the temple and proclaims himself as and I'm not sure if it mentions I think it's mentioned sitting on a throne, proclaiming himself God and great authority. So he's given this power by Satan, that is the man of sin. And one from out of his heads was as having been slain to death, and the wound of his death was cured. And there was wonder in all the earth after the wild beast. And they did obeisance to the dragon, given the authority to the wild beast. Obeisance to the dragon, not the wild beast. And they did obeisance, well, and here they did obeisance to the wild beast, also saying, who is likened to the wild beast, and that's probably the man of sin, and who is mighty to wage war with him. So the Jews at the time will accept him, all the things that he was able to do, and it sounds good to them, and a mouth was given to him speaking great things and blasphemy. The blasphemy would be against Jesus. And authority was given to him to make war for 42 months. And that, again, is the tribulation period. And he opened, and he opened his mouth for blasphemy against God, to blaspheme his name, which would be Jesus, and his tent, and the ones encamping in the heaven. So even the Christians in the heaven. And what was given to him to make war with the holy ones, and to overcome them, probably the ones on the earth that are believers at that time, who have come to the knowledge of God and Jesus during the tribulation period. And was given to him authority over every tribe and language and nation. See here now, glossa, tongue. Can't possibly be your tongue. It's language and nation. And they did obeisance to him, all the ones dwelling upon the earth, all whose name was not written in the book of the life of the Lamb. So people that were not Jews, and all the people bowing down to this person that has now come into the temple and proclaiming himself God. So they're bowing down, and having been slain from the founding of the earth, the Lamb. If anyone has an ear to hear, let him hear. If anyone has kept, and that's captivity, let him into captivity he goes. If anyone kills with a sword, it is a must for him to be killed by a sword. Here is the endurance and the belief of the holy ones at that time. And I saw another wild beast ascending from out of the earth, and he had 2 horns, like unto a lamb, and spoke as a dragon. And he executes all the authority of the first wild beast before him, and that would have been the man of sin, and caused the earth and the ones dwelling in it that they should do obeisance to the first wild beast. So here we got another wild beast coming, and he's causing, now is this the prophet? It means a false prophet is mentioned here in a little bit, of which was cured the wound of his death. So it looks like he'll have this is a person that dies, but yet comes back to life, and he works great signs and fire that from out of heaven it should come down upon the earth before men. So this was the second wild beast. I saw another wild beast, and he's ascending from the earth, not from the land, water. And now he misleads the ones of mine, dwelling upon the earth by the signs of which were given to him to do before the first wild beast, I would imagine, saying to the ones dwelling upon the earth to make an image to the first wild beast, probably, which had the womb of the sword and lived, and was given to him breath to give life to the image of the wild beast, that also the image of the wild beast should speak. Now here we get into the Revelations 13 with the beast, and the number of his number is 666. People vote for the wild beast. Apparently, you have to go into Revelation. When I went through in Revelation video, and he should cause as many as should not do obeisance to the I guess that was the end of here it is right here. We are in 13. To the image of the wild beast, that they should be killed. And he causes all, the small and the great, and the rich and the poor, and the free and the bondmen, that they should be given to them an imprint upon their right hand or upon their foreheads, that no one should be able to buy or sell except the one having the imprint. And there we go. It's happening now. The imprint could very well be coming in real soon. And you can't buy or sell. Electronic commerce, easy. Or so the one having the Trump imprint, or the name of the wild beast, or the number of his name. Now everybody says 666. Well, it's not. Here is wisdom. The one having mind tally is not count. Count is sophizo. I'm not sorry. This is sophizo. It's a arithmeo. And the one having the mind tally, the number, not arithmeo. So here we're tallying a vote of some sort. The only place I saw where any ruler was ever tallied was, I have a picture of it when they put these cephos, which are different types of stones, white stones, black stones, when they're voting, when they voted for the Pope. And I have the picture of it somewhere. And so but what is the number for the number of the wild beast? It is a number of a man. And his number is here now 3 separate letters. They're not 666. See, this is where you get the better information with the Apostolic Bible, because 600 is X, or he, in the Greek. Xi is 60, and a S, stigma, is 6. 660 and 6. And so you will tally the number of these 660 and 6. So when I see these people, if they have a name that's like a Greek name, then I'll look it up, and I'll find the numbers. And I have a book here someplace behind me where it has the Greek numbers. And so when you tally them, it does come up under 666. So in English, you would write 666. But now it says there's a dagger here, a footnote, and the footnote says that Complutensian reads execosia execonta x. And this is 600, and this is the conta, 60, and x is 6. And it spells out the number, the words for the numbers. So it would be like 600, and you would write it out, SIXHUNDRED, and then SIXTY for this, and SIX. And the Greek does the same thing. And so here we have a tallying of a vote. And so it's a number of a man. And now in the wild beast. So that now it doesn't say that, I think this is still the second wild beast from the land that it's talking about here. I don't think it's switched back over to the first wild beast. A lot of things there. And now we go back in, and before we go back into it, it mentions also in Revelation 16:13, which is a little further in Revelations than where I was in 12 and 13 just now. In Revelation 16:13, it says, "And I saw from out of the mouth of the dragon, the dracon, and from out of the mouth of the wild beast, and from out of the mouth of the false prophet." So the third one could be a false prophet, this third wild beast. 3 unclean spirits as frogs, vatrakos, frogs. Now what that is, I don't know. People have probably tried to figure that out. And then the final one I read at the beginning, and he sees the dragon, the ancient serpent, who is the devil and Satan, and the one misleading the entire inhabitable world, and bound him 1,000 years. So this is the second place, so it confirms that these are Satan. And he is the dragon. And the first wild beast, the second wild beast, who possibly may be the false prophet. And then we have the man of sin in the book of 2 Thessalonians 2. Could be the second, to be the man right here, the man of sin could be the second wild beast or the prophet. But then it continues. I'll just read 14 and 15 again because it's interesting. "So you fracture the heads of the dragon." So now we had that. See how here is the heads of the dragons upon the water. Now, I think there is one place that seems like it mentioned the dragon being singular. I'm not sure. But anyway, the head of the dragon here, this is it, the footnote. So 74:14, it says on the Complutensian has the kephalin, the head, 7/4, the head of the dragon, but the other ones, more of them have the heads, plural. And if you want to get into finding out which manuscripts and everything, you can get our USB drive, which has the 1709 Lambert Bose Septuagint, and it shows you all the variants of different manuscripts and so forth that were available at 1709, the year 1709. And then it continues, "You tore open the springs and rushing streams, and you dried the rivers of continuance." Could that be where the earth opened up its mouth and swallowed the water? Could it be a portent of Revelation? "Yours is the day and yours is the night. You fashion giving light and the sun." It's interesting how it separates it. You would think, well, light and sun is synonymous, but they're not, because the light was created before the sun. You go back to Revelation. "You made all the boundaries of the earth." Oria. We have horizon, Oria. And this is a boundary. And in the King James, pro-orizo, the Oria, orizo, is setting a boundary or making the boundary. And some denominations call this predestination. They translated that word into predestined. Well, it wasn't predestined. It's setting the boundary. And you made all the boundaries of the earth. Summer and spring, you shaped them. He controls the weather. Remember this, that an enemy berated the Lord. Now, again, who that enemy was internal, external, or both. And a foolish people provoked your name. To me, this could be Kyrios. To me, it was Jesus, Jesus. You should not deliver up a soul making acknowledgement to you to the wild beasts. There we go. Again, as in Revelation, another portent. Shouldn't deliver him up to the wild beasts, but two of them. And of the souls of your needy, you should not forget to the end. And the end is Revelation. Look unto your covenant. You made a covenant with the people, the new covenant with us, with Jesus. For the old covenant is no longer valid. The new covenant. Look to your new covenant. For the ones being darkened filled the earth of houses of lawlessness. That's how bad it was. And this is going to be how bad it is now. And going to get worse. Let not the one being humbled be turned away. So this is the key to being accepted by Jesus, is being humbled, being as a little child coming to Jesus Christ. The poor and the needy shall praise your name. Rise up, O God, agitate your cause. And that's a judge, or actually would be the person that is a lawyer. And Jesus was our lawyer, more or less, the Redeemer. He's redeeming us, paying the ransom. And so he's taken up our cause. Remember your scorning by the foolish one the entire day. And the ones that didn't love you, Lord, remember them and remember us. We did love you. We love you. You should not forget the voice of your servants. That's us. The pride of the ones detesting you ascended continually. So he's making a plea here and showing where these other people don't deserve what, if they ignore God and the things of Jesus, they detest him, then they're opposite of us. Lord, we believe you, we love you, and we know who you are. We tell people who you are, and we try to intercede with people that don't know you, intercede with people that don't know you to know you as best way we can. Everybody you send in front of us, Lord, is a person that needs to know about you. If you put anybody in front of us, Lord, that we can talk to and tell them, then we need to tell them about you. If we are given a person to talk to by you, and we fail to tell them of you, then we are miserable servants. We're not doing the right thing. Lord, we just ask that you would give us the wisdom to say the right things to these people that you bring to us, the ones that may be detesting you, but they may come to you. We're the only ones, we are who you use. And this is more or less all these things that the writer of the psalm is saying. Psalm 75, the Lord is judge, and yep, there is going to be that judgment. We'll find out about that in Psalm 75. I hope you'll join us. Till then, God bless.